All right, guys, we're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. Wait and see if anybody else joins. So we're going to be working with ECharts today. Give me just a minute to get this pulled up. Okay, so this is my first time messing around with Stream Studio here, Restream, as the only person running it, and I'm realizing that sharing my screen and then seeing what everyone else is doing, if anyone joins, is a little more difficult than I thought. So I will try to keep an eye out if anybody joins and has a question. You won't actually be able to speak until I jump over there and add somebody. So we're just going to try this and see how it works. So I think you guys can see this screen. Bear with me because I am new at this streaming here by myself. Let's see. I hear somebody has joined. Paul. Hey, Paul. Hey, are you there, Paul? All right. So if anybody does have questions, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll go ahead and add you. So what I'm going to do, I can't really keep an eye on the stream and chat here on my own. So I'm just going to start working. I will occasionally jump over and check the chat. And if somebody is there and has questions or a specific chart you want to try, then we can pivot and go with that. So, all right. Paul, could you put something in the chat and let me know if you see, for some reason, I'm permanently muted. Okay. See if you can try now. Any luck? Okay. Well, I can see you in the chat, so that works. And what I'm going to do is just start going through a couple different examples here. I've got a slide, and can anyone see this? Paul, you're in the chat. If you can just let me know if you see this, the slide page right now. Not yet. Stop screen sharing. Okay, how about now? Sorry about that. I think we might actually have this working now. I'm sorry, this is my first time trying to do all this solo. So do you see the presentation? Yeah, okay, great. We are finally getting things worked out here, just a few minutes into the first attempt. So what we're gonna look at today is ECharts. I'm doing this Friday Tech Workshop. We're gonna try something every week where we'll look at a new feature or a different library. And so today we are checking out ECharts. This is a new feature in Appsmith, and we still have support for fusion charts, but that will be deprecated. We're suggesting everybody start using ECharts, which has a ton of more options. I've got a bunch of examples here. So we're going to walk through the basics of getting these charts working and then look at some more advanced ones and figure out how to connect your data. So first, kind of walk through what we want to do. The static charts, you've got some really simple examples where you can just copy, paste, put it into one of our widgets and it works. So we're going to look at that first. And then transforming your data so that it fits the expected structure for that particular chart type. And then we'll look at generating, or rather the charts that are using generated data. So there's a couple things with ECharts that can make it difficult to figure out how to implement it yourself. And some of these are using a set of data that's like generated within the charts code. It makes it a little confusing. There's extra stuff there that you don't really need for your use case. And so we'll look at how to separate those things and get to what you really need. And then lastly here, if we have time, we're going to look at ECharts that have functions for animations and interactions. So you've got to kind of separate that stuff from just getting the chart working at first and then move those functions into Appsmith. So first thing that we're going to do is, let me keep an eye on the chat here. I see we still have Paul here and no other questions yet. Okay. So I have this example. This is like the most basic one. You'll see that there is an option that's defined here, and it is an object. And so this is saying that to run this chart, the option object is equal to this x-axis, and it's got a label, the type here, and then just an array, and then the y-axis. And if you just copy and paste the object itself, you don't actually want the option equals or the trailing semicolon there. So let me start over on this. I'm going to delete this widget, and we will add a new chart. Okay, so in the chart type here, you'll see ECharts. We're going to select ECharts, and for the configuration, we'll just clear all that out and open the double curly braces here, and then just paste in that options object. And so that's all there is to it with certain chart types. This one's really simple. Just paste it in that options object and it works. Now, next what we'll do is swap out our data for the actual data right here. And so what I want to do is start with a different data set that's not in this format, because that's usually how these things work. When you're trying to, you pick some kind of chart that you want to use, your data is not going to be just an array of numbers like this, right? You're coming from some other format, and you have to get that into here. So that's the basics of just copy paste and get a chart that will render. That's step one, is get it working hard coded. And once you have that, then you want to connect your data. So next thing I'm going to do is add an API so that we have some data to work with. I will add a new blank REST API. And I like to use randomuser.me. So if we do a GET request to the randomuser.me API, we get back a results array. And if I remember right, looks like it is only giving me a single. Yeah, it just gives you one at first. Let me zoom in here. So I want, let's do 100 because I want a lot of stuff to chart. Okay, so I've got a lot of records now, and we can go map over these, and I don't know, we could do this number or just really anything, right? The point is that we've got data in the wrong format, and we want to map over it and get it into the right format for this other chart. So next, what we'll do is I'm going to create a new JS object. And so in here, I'm going to map over that data. And at first, let's just return the data as it is. So chart data, and we'll just say return, was it get users? And let's see, run that. Why is this way up here? There we go. And so we have the same data coming back at this point. We haven't done anything new with it yet. What I want to do is get an array of numbers. And so if you're looking at this set of your data and you want to drill down into this for every row, for every record, you want to go to the location.number. So what we'll do is map, and we'll take each user and return the user.location.number. And we have our first error. All right, what did I miss here? Let's check out the I think I missed the name on that. Was it number? Location number, lowercase. For each, oh, I see. So the data, this comes back as .data, and it's an object. It's not an array. Results is the array. So the thing I want to map over is results, and then get each user's location and return that number. And again, we have an error. Okay. Location, let's get that first. That is an object. And I think it was street number that I was looking at. Okay. It's really nested. Now we have an array of numbers. Okay. So this is our chart data, and we can put this in place on the chart. We'll go back to the UI here. Sounds like we might have somebody new. Cool, easy. How's it going? Feel free to comment in the chat here if anybody has a chart type that you'd like to see. For now, I'm just kind of walking through some basics, but if we have any specific requests, we can pivot and work on that. So let's see, where were we at here? Right at this point in the array, this is where I want to put in the data that I'm providing. Now, it looks like, let's see, 3, yeah, there are 7 labels here, you know, for the days of the week, and 7 right here. And so just to keep from breaking anything and keep this simple, I'm going to start with this. We'll get 7 records so that the data that is in that array only has 7 numbers. And so now I can reference my JS object, and I've got that function that will return the chart data. And now this data is coming from that random user API. And if let's see, let's add a button so we can see it from here. I'm going to just run that API, and we'll see it get random values. So we want this on click to execute get users. And oh, I see, it's not updating because we're looking at the .data. So it's good that we're doing this live because you guys get to see all these little things that can trip you up. And so since I put .data here, it is not updating every time the function runs. But if I tell it to run the function, now it actually reruns the function when the input changes. So this is live mapping over the data coming from an API, transforming it into the right format for this specific chart. And this one's pretty simple, okay? Some of these next ones that we're gonna get into can be a lot harder to transform the data. It can be harder to strip out the part of the chart code that you really want from some other stuff that we're gonna look at here in a few minutes. But I think this is the easiest, the most basic example of getting, going from the chart here, copying the object, the options object, and then swapping out your data and how to bind that in there. So let's see, no questions so far? I am going to go on to another example then. So let's check out some of the more advanced ones here and see what makes, you know, some of these are a lot more difficult to implement. I'm just going to go down the line here and see that one's pretty much the same thing. There's nothing fancy there. This one has multiple series. It is still an option here. If I collapse that, there's nothing else. Everything is in this option object. So it's there's more data to it. There's multiple series, but I don't see any functions here. It is hard-coded data, and it's just an options object. So this one's still pretty easy. Let's see. I think a lot of these are going to be similar. Some of them, though, they get creative with mapping over some data, and they have functions, and it can really make it tough to figure out what you need to focus on, how to actually implement it. I'll tell you what, I remember the ones that gave me trouble. So let me just go back and look at these. So there's a tree map one, and this is pretty cool. I've got some nested JSON here. So there's a name for this at the top level of the object, and then inside of it is an array. And then some of those items have more children, and it's nested. And so you can click into these different nodes here and expand. Some of them drill down pretty far. It just depends on which one you're on. But this one was kind of tricky to figure out. Let's look at the code for that tree. Here we go. All right. So the first thing that really made this one tough to figure out is, what data are they feeding in here? Because it's referenced, it's external. And so unlike the other one where we could actually see the data itself and the format that was being fed into it, this one's kind of abstracted, hidden from you. So let's see, I'm going to duplicate this tab here, copy this, this path. And I think right after the examples, if I remember right, you can find these data sets. Yeah, there it is. So that's one trick, is when the data is external and you're trying to look at what the input data should look like, copy that /data and put it in the URL after ECharts apache.org/examples, and then your whatever referenced file there. And so this will show you the source data that they're using, which may or may not be what the chart widget actually is meant to use, right? We had to transform data on the last example. And in this example, they're using an external data source, this external file, but then they're mapping over it. So it's really confusing because, one, you can't see the input data. Two, once you find it and you do look at this data, it's not actually the format that the chart wants. And there's this function here that is mapping over it to create the right type of data. So it's a little tricky to work with. The next trick that I have figured out is that you can look at this data by editing this right here. If I just do console.log option, and it shows that that's a local variable here. So let's inspect this. Console. Okay, let's see. How did I get this last time? Oh, run. Let's see. Other. All right. We'll come back to this. There is definitely a way to console log the options. I found this last week when I wasn't able to get one of these to work. And I also did it inside of the function so that I could see what it was doing within the loop. So let's try that. Instead of logging it out there, while we're in this for each, let's see, there's index, datum collapsed. I want to reference something that is defined in the scope. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Easy's got one he wants to work on. Okay. We'll come back to this in a minute. So there is a trick here on the console. I'm going to come back to that so we don't waste too much time on it because we have an example that we want to look at here. But that's my other tip, is that one is look at the structure of the source data that they're using, and you might need that URL. And then the other is find somewhere that you can log this stuff to the console. And yeah, you should be able to access the data and copy and paste it, put it in a JS object, and then that will let you feed in some hard-coded data to it. So you can get back to that simple example where you're just pasting in hard-coded. And so what you want to do is if you console log that object, it will render and give you the final result. It's just hard-coded data at that point without those functions that are making this a little harder to figure out how to implement. You can't put this exact code here. This part won't run in a JS object. And so you've got to kind of separate what is the options object itself and what is the functions that are being used to create that. So let's check out the one EZ just showed us here. This has an options object. Cool, this one looks pretty simple. There's the radius itself. And then we've got a single, is it a single series? That's an object. Yeah, it's just a single array for the series. And a legend, okay? So what we could do, this one has days, maybe map over the people. We've got that API of users, and I could map their birth dates or something. So what we'll do is copy this options object here. And I'm going to leave that one for this example. So we'll do a new chart. Okay, if I clear this out and just paste in, this one is not working out of the box. What is missing? We have radius series. Looking to see if there's any references to something external, because sometimes these will reference something outside of the scope of this object. It's not self-contained. This one doesn't have anything like that. Trying to expand all of it here. There we go. Okay, so, I put in a new chart widget and I did not set it to EChart. Okay. So now we can clear this out. Paste that in there and it works out of the box. Okay, good. Yeah, I thought that one should be really easy because there's no functions involved. So now let's connect some data to this. This has a bit more to the data structure. I'm going to look at it over here. So we have a bunch of objects, data 1, 2, 3, 4, polar name A, stacked A. EZ, do you have a specific use case in mind for this chart? Like I'm trying to figure out if there's, if it makes more sense to take dates, or would you use it for like showing, I don't know, distribution of whatever data set by category. I'm thinking days of the week here is one we could use with birth dates, but just wondering why you were interested in that chart type. Let's go and see if we can map over our data and get back something similar to this, where we would want an array of the numbers based off of, we could group things by the day of the week that people are born on or whatever. And that would give us an array of we could group it by how many people on each day of the week, I guess. Given my data, that's the easiest or closest thing I can come up with. Interested in showing the amounts of ingredients by recipe. I know what you're talking about. This is a recent use case that we have with one of our customers. So let's see. My data does not have anything like that. What would be a good sample data set? Macoon has this API playground that just came out. And I think there might be invoices. Maybe we could use that kind of data. Not invoices, no. Yeah, I don't have anything handy that is going be similar to that data structure. So I think what I will do is just map over some data. And first what we'll do is we can get each person's day of the week that they were born on, and then do like a group by function and see if we can get some data that's looking close to this. So I'm going to do a different JS object for this one. And what was the name of that chart? This is a bar polar stack. Okay. So just like before, the first thing that I'm going to do is just return the query as it is, just to make sure I'm getting something back. And we want the results array. So we'll return the users. And if we were to map them to, we could just do the list of, I don't need nearly all this data. So what I'm going to do is pick out their name and their birth date. Is that all I need? We want something to group by. Maybe we'll do country and birth date. Okay. So for each user, we want to return an object. And if you try this, like you're saying return an object, it thinks that's the open and close of a function. So if you wrap that, then you can return the object like this. So we'll say return an object that just has the name with the user name dot, oh, I'm sorry, I said to go with country. Location, country. Okay, have that field. And then the second thing I want is we'll get the birth date, and I think I'm going to also add in like the day of the week. I'll do it while I'm mapping this. So date of birth, and that is user dot, there it is. And then day of week. And so this would be, I'm going to use moment, pass in their date of birth, and then dot format. And the format that we want to retrieve this in is just the, we'll go with the long version of the day. Okay, so that is coming back as a date of birth object here. I have the country, date of birth dot date. Invalid date. Date of birth dot date. Okay. So that's an object, and there is a date. And yeah, that's a string. Invalid date. Oh, I think some of them are missing a date. Date of birth, date of. No, it's this one. I see. So we do want to pass in the date object, or to the actual date string here. Okay. Now that looks like a wrong date format. I'm trying to remember what format this is. Is it lowercase d for letters? Nope. So time to check out the docs. Day of the week, 3 lowercase d's. Okay. Hey, there we go. So I've got a data set where there's a lot of, should be repeating countries, some repeating days of the week, and then like individual specific dates. Oh, all right, now let's look at that chart data again. Go back to the UI here, and I could map over this data now and type category. Let's see, there's 3 different kind of components to this. There's the ABC, that could be the country, and then like the day of, I want a number here, so that can't be the day of the week. This is the day of the week, is the ring that they're in. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're gonna have every day of the week. I wonder if this is gonna break it. Okay, so I can add a new axis, I guess, a new ring here without breaking anything. Let's put them all in there. All right, how are we doing here? We have still got Paul and Easy hanging out. Some recipes that you can eat. Yeah, you know, I do like that idea, man. I think this is the right type of chart. That would be cool to see that distribution with ingredients and proportions. But I'm working with the data set that I have here, and we'll see if we can get close. And then this would give an example here that somebody can copy out and use for theirs. So now we've got 7. We got the whole set of rings there. I want to return, let's see, data 1, 2, 3, 4. This goes up to 15. 2, 4, 6, 8 bar. This is interesting. Yeah, the series data on this is got a couple different pieces to it, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to put where. So I'm going to say name is country for like up here, and then the day of the week that people are born on, and maybe we could do like age out here. I don't know. If I can at least get the country in there, we'll go that far, and then maybe pivot and check out another chart, because I don't want to spend too much on any one thing here, so we can still show a lot of other examples. Okay, so instead of returning that, we'll call this const raw data. And then we'll map over this one more time. And for each row, let's just return it again, just make sure that's working. And I want to look at this format one more time. I think what I'll do is use a template literal and copy this object here, and then just like swap out the pieces of it that I need. So we want to return 7 of these series. Yeah, because I think this one had 4 for the original. It only showed 4 days. And so we're going to get back 7 users and map over them and try to use this object shape, basically. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm making stuff up here. So right here, we're going to open this up. And we want to return what this map does here. And so in here, I'm going to say const, actually, return, maybe I can do it like this. Return an object, and that's the hard-coded object for a single one. And then for the name, we'll get the user's country. Row dot, there it is. So I'm getting back an array of objects similar in structure to what that chart is using, and I've put the name in there. I got one thing. Let's see if we can put this data on the chart and at least see the countries. So how much of this do I want to replace now? There's the type equals that, data, there's this array, series. I think I just want to do this array for the series. So right here we can reference bar polar chart. There it is. Whoa, okay. I didn't put the labels of the countries up here, but I'm seeing more colors, like probably the full set instead of the 4 that we had. So it's a start. We probably need more labels for the legend as well. And it seems like this one was just getting it from the individual row data. We have to match up with the values that we're passing in here. Stack. Yeah, that's like what stack is it in? Okay. Man. Here I could use their, I don't know. I'm going to try country again because the stack is A. Maybe that's like the ring here. Easy, you picked a tough one, man. It's kind of fun though. Paul, yeah, okay. Let's see. We're going to put the stack. Oh, that's not it. Row country. So what if we name the stack after the country? And then I would also need a list of the countries to put in place of right here, I think. Ooh, look at that. I made a rainbow. I think this has been a fun experiment, but we don't have the right data. And I want to do a different chart type here. So if that's cool, we're going to pivot to a different one. And I think I'll come back to this when we do have that ingredient data set. We are getting some kind of fun results here, but it's just starting with the totally wrong data for this chart type. And it's, I don't know, feels like we should switch to something else. So let's see. Oh, that's crazy looking. I like these calendar ones. And that does work with our data set. Okay. How about that? Guys, I'm going to try this calendar one with some birth dates because that seems more appropriate for the data set that I've got handy here. So I thought there was a calendar section, maybe. Yes. Okay. I think I want to do a single year. What we'll do is look at their birth dates and just ignore the year and figure out like the month and the day and try to put it on here and get a heat map from our random data. So that sounds like a better fit. Give me just a second here. Switching the standing desk. Okay, so this one has a function. This is some of the stuff I was talking about earlier that makes these a little tricky to implement. So in this case, there's a series, and for data, it says get virtual data from this year. And then up here, there's a function that takes the year, and it looks like they're just mapping over this stuff to make their data on the fly. So like I said, these can be tough to figure out because there's so many different ways that that the examples have been put together. Sometimes it's hard-coded. Sometimes it references external JSON that's in the right format. Sometimes the external JSON has to be modified first and transformed before it fits. And then other times, like this one, they're just generating the data on the fly. There is no input file or anything. So if I copy just this object here, it's not going to work. That function doesn't exist over there. So I really need my data to be right here in the format that this function returns. Let's try the console log one more time, see if we can figure that out. I know I got this to work before. So if I log this data before we return it, and we'll inspect. console. Verbose. I don't remember how I got this in the log before. Getting warnings though, that's new. Okay, so the other approach then is that we just copy this hard-coded and we write our own function that that returns something similar to this. We can run this. We can run this in an object. We just don't use the function keyword. So I think I'll copy this part first and get this working as a function. So we'll do another chart. And change it to EChart. Okay, I'm going to make another JS object here just to keep all these separate. And this one is our calendar heat map. Okay, and then that function that we just copied, I just need the middle of it there because we got my own name. It takes in a year as a parameter. And then that's all of the contents of the function. So I'm going to put that right here. We'll say that this takes a year and it is 2024. And now it's referencing this ECharts time function to create a new year. And all of these three references here, these aren't going to work in our environment. So instead of that, we have to use moment or day.js or some temporal, whatever you want to use. But we have to create a new date here by combining those. So I think if I just swap this out for maybe just moment, let's try that. I think that might work with the string concatenation inside of the parentheses. And this one goes to the .time format. I'm not sure. If that's going to work or not. Moment format. It's not a function. Oh. EMatch is not a function. New error. Okay. Where's E? I do not see a variable declared name E. What is this? Moment.format. It's pushing in a date at that point. ECharts time.format. Let time equal. Okay, so this loop here is passing in a different time in each iteration of the loop and using that to format it to this date string. So we don't really need to use that .time. I can create a new moment on the fly. Like I don't need to use, I don't know what this ECharts.time thing does, but we don't have that available in our environment here. Format. So I think that's what it is. The moment format is not used to this set of parameters. Hey, that's it. Okay. So at least it's not erroring now. We're getting back mapped over our data, and we've got something starting to look like that series data. How are we doing here? We got still got a couple people hanging out. I'm gonna keep going here for maybe another hour, and I want to get to at least one or two more chart types. So let's see how far we can get on this one. Okay, the EChart that we were on, Heatmap, here we go. So this options object, it has some data right there. I know this is not going to work directly because there's no data. It's referencing a function that we have not recreated yet. So paste this in here anyway. And so right here is where my function will go once we get this working. That is returning something, so go ahead and connect it. But I think we're going to still have to do some work on getting it in the right format. Already forgetting what I called that object. Calendar heat map. Huh. Okay. Well, it at least renders the calendar without any data. That's a good start. So now in this series data, we're missing something for it to populate here. And so let's compare our series data. You can tell that this is, it was supposed to be a template literal here with a date, and it ended up coming back in a format where it's showing the brackets still. The template literal didn't work. So format like that. I think that's that EChart with that special format that they had, or whatever method function this thing is, something specific to ECharts that helps with dates. And we don't have that here. So my format then, when you're using moment, it does not expect those. Okay. All right, we're getting closer. I know there's something that function is doing that we're not quite replicating here. ECharts time format. I really need to get this console log figured out so we can look at the final data after the chart here renders it. This is going to drive me nuts. I'm sure right after this is over, I'll figure it out and then I can post. So what I want to do right here is, this is an extra line that I added actually. Let's refresh and make sure that we only have that one edit. Okay, so here it is, just refreshed. There's nothing that I've changed here yet. So I'll console log the data. I'm going to try this one more time, but I don't know what I'm missing. What is this? I guess it was there the whole time and it said other. Okay, I was ignoring that. So this is what the data should look like. And mine, it's got some text right there at the end, instead of the day, I guess. So that's just a small difference between this plus ECharts, whatever. It's using, one format, and maybe with that, 2 lowercase d's is a number, but with moment, it seems to be coming back as text. So that's where our issue is. All right. Thought we were there, but not quite. We've got an array. Oh, it's another array. It's 2D nested. Okay, I don't think that's what this one is. Is it? Maybe it is. So I'm going to copy this whole object just to look at it outside of this, and we'll paste it in a new JS object. heat map data. Yeah, I guess it is. It's a single array where each element of the array is a date and a number. Okay, and if I put this in place then on here, hey, we're working again. Okay, all right, finally, that's what I was trying to do earlier with the console.log. I don't know why I missed that. I think because it didn't have a label or something and said other, I didn't expand it. This will let you see the exact right format. So find somewhere in the function, if it's one of these that is not hard-coded, if it's got a function and you don't really get to look at the data, then just figure out where to log it. Maybe even just down here at the end. So here data is defined in the function, and I'm logging it as data. And then here it's saying data is this. So you could also maybe console log running this function. There's another method down here. But anyway, we've got the hard-coded format confirmed now. It should just be this 2D array with a date and then a number. So let's go back and let's see. JS object. I was working in this one. It is the right format. It's not rendering. Is it because like the range of the numbers? These are all in the thousands, in the hundreds there, but it seems like it's pretty much the same data. So I'm wondering if it's like the length, if it has to be like a 1-to-1 on the labels or something, like the number of values to match up. So this one, range is 2017. Could that be it? The dates aren't in the right range? I'm going to change this to 2024. And I want to change my function that I was using to only make dates within this year. Let's see if that works. So what's the name of the other one? Man, calendar heat map. Hey, one showed up. I think that's it. So there's the range. You define the year for the calendar, and then the dates have to fall within that year. And I've got one working here so far. So if I map over the rest of these dates, let's go back to here. Yeah, I think if I just take this out and put in oh, no, I do want the year there. The moment here, where's the one that's coming from the wrong year? See, this is passing in the current year. So all these dates are in this year. Floor. I wonder if this is adding something to it that puts it outside that range. Okay, all of these are in 2024. And they still are. Yeah, calendar heat map. So this is my generated data. It is in, it's all within the year 2024. Hold on. It's all the same date. Oh my God. Can't believe I just noticed that. I'm returning. That's why I only see one on the map. Okay. Interesting. right here. It's creating a new moment right now and pushing the same one every time. And I want it to push one based off of date and one of these. That's hard-coded. So this 24 gets added on there. Those two are constant. Let time equal date. It's an object. Let time equal date. No. These are different dates. Okay. I think it's pretty much working. I don't know what we're looking at for overlap here on like it's just randomly generated. So it'd be good to get this with like a real data set now and see, see like the weight. Because like, I think we're just randomly using this for the distribution. So I've got data coming from this function, and it could be coming from your data that you map over. It's just randomly generated right now. I think the next step, now that I know the right format and I do have it working in the chart, the next step would be to map over data from the API and get it into the same format of this randomly generated data. So I think we'll keep going. This one's working all right. Wouldn't it? Moment date. Yeah, Paul, I think you probably spotted that quicker than I did here. But we got it working. Okay, so let's see. Next is we want to get the same data format that's randomly generated. It is a date string, year, month, day, and then a number. And that could be like the house number from the location on our user data set. So I've got this function that's auto-generated, and then I'll do mine. And again, I think I'll start out just returning the API itself for get users. So for this results array, I want to return the user.dateofbirth.date. Location, there it is. We want to return the date in. Actually, I can just split it by the T. I don't need to reformat it. Yeah, I'll just grab the date by splitting that by the T. And then for the number that is usually in the hundreds or thousands, we can use their location number. And so the end goal is to get an array of data that looks like this with just those two. Yeah, that should be pretty easy. Okay. Just thinking out loud, getting a plan here. So we're going to map over this, the results anyway. So for each user, return an object with, wait, no, we want to return an array. So return an array that contains u.dateofbirth.date.split. We'll split it by that T and get the first element in the array. And then the second item here in this list should be the user.location, what was it, street number? That looks like the right data. It is, it's in other years though. So I think it's time to make this a multi-line function. Right here, we'll wrap this and say return. Let's see, const date equals okay, so now I've got the date, but I still need to swap out the year. And I just want to replace the first part of it after like the first 4 characters. There's a ton of ways you could do this in JavaScript. Let's see. I'm going to let's get it working first, returning without modifying it, and then I'll just have to add that last bit. So we want to return an array. First element is the date, and the second is the number. Now we just have to make the date within this year. New date, we'll make it 2024. And then to that, we're going to add date split. So if we split the date by the hyphens, then that should, this is a terrible way to do this, but I'm going to split it by hyphens, and that should give me like the other components, the month and the day. So that would, I want the second one. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of how lazy this is. I should really refactor this, but I'm so close to having it working. Okay, so then we're going to make a new date, and it's 2024, and then getting those other 2 pieces of it. And I put that here. Okay, and then just got to put the hyphen in there. I'm sure there's a better, cleaner way to do this as a template literal, but right here. All right. Calendar heat map, chart data. That's not the right one. It is users to chart. Yeah, so we want to see that, see this data on the chart now. So users to chart. Hi, all right, we finally got it. So this data is showing our data set, and we can see it live now. Let's do that like we did on the other one. Get a button here. So these dates are coming from our set of users. If I rerun that function to get the users, we get different dates. It is working. Cool. All right. So let's kind of recap. This one had a lot more involved. We'll go back and check out the chart here. The thing that really was critical on figuring this one out is that you can't see this, the shape of this data here. You see the function, but if you copy this function and go put it in Appsmith, it doesn't work because we don't have this ECharts.time whatever parser. you have to use moment or some other library. So the first thing was, what kind of data am I trying to replicate? And anybody that's just joining here, I want to show this one more time. So here's the chart, just refreshed it so that it's not edited yet. And if I just log this data before we return it, then here in the user message, you can copy this whole object, the array, and see what the shape of the data is. And then I pasted that into a JS object just to look at it. Yeah, there's my static one. And so then I put the static data in place of the function call on the chart here. So right here where it was data, and then it's in the example, it's calling the other function that won't work in Appsmith. So we're calling our function here, but it's hard-coded at first. And so that's kind of step 2, is just replicate the data hard-coded just to get something to render so that you know that you're on the right track. And then lastly is to swap out your data and transform it into the right format for the chart. So this was pretty cool. I've never done a calendar map one with live data like this. I did get a calendar heat map just to render with the hard-coded stuff, but I had not tried, twisting the data into the right format for this. So yeah, that was a cool one. All right, what's going on? Anybody new? Nope. I'm going to keep going. We'll find another chart example here. Let's see, how could we use this one? We have people. I just made the data set to where all the dates are in the same year. So I could probably use that same logic on this. What does the data look like on this one? Same thing. So it's just a 2D array with a date and a number. But then there's also like 3 numbers here. That can't be everything. Oh, okay. Yeah, this has a few different sets of data that it's generating. It's doing some stuff down here too. So that's not all of it. This one has several pieces that we'll have to replicate separate from the options. So here's something else you can do to figure out what it is you need to replicate to make this options object work. Just collapse this part of it and see what's left, what's happening outside of that. And then this has the cell size here. So some settings that you want to apply to all of these circles, they should all be the same size and radius. I suppose you could make different size dots in each one if you wanted, but the way this one is set up is it's a constant declared outside of the function, and then it uses it inside the function to generate the individual pie chart for each date. So we could replicate something like that. I see that it's using the ECharts.timeParse thing again that we don't have. But actually, yeah, this part is in this same format as our data. So I don't need to replicate that at all. And then there's a couple other variables to declare there. Scatter data. This is a different one. Let's log that. Scatter data equals get virtual data. Oh, I see. So it's just redeclaring the result of this function as scatter data, and then it maps over it again. Item index. This function should work in Appsmith. This one does not have that ECharts time function, and we do have the math, round and random. So pi series data equals scatter data. I have this format of data, and I can, oops, and I can do that map on it. Where's the other end of that? It's right here. Map. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to use this map on the data that I already have and see if we can get it into this chart. New chart. Okay, we'll do another new JS object. And this one's calendar pi. I already had that other function in a different JS object, but I do want these to all be like independent examples, so I'm just gonna have 2 copies of my code. I think this is the one I want. No, calendar heat map. Yeah, so this function, users to chart. No, this one, because the first one's random and this one's off of my real data. So reusing some code here, but I do want each one of these examples to be standalone and have their own file instead of everything mixed together. So I have this data, and then I want to do this other map right here. Can I copy that? Copy. Will this work? No, pi radius. There's a reference to something here. There's at least one thing that's missing. What value? 30? Yeah, I need both of these. All right, so we're inside a JS object instead of a JavaScript file. So we don't need the const, and we declare them like that. This is another thing that makes copying ECharts hard, is that we're working in a JS object, so the notation is a little bit different, the way that you declare these things. And then the last thing here is to reference this pi radius there. Okay, that might be it. Function. Users to chart. Okay, I have the data only. I don't have the full object, but we're getting there. All right, I think I do have the data in the right format. Now we need the options object. A lot of hard-coded stuff. There's one thing here I'll have to fix. Data equals scatter data. I got that. Pi series. Boy, this one's got a lot to it. So they declare scatter data is get virtual data, which is up here. And then pi series, which is the data I just mapped. I don't think they use that again. No. So I'm going to copy the options object. Okay, and we'll put that inside of here. Cell size is not defined. Tell you what, with this one, I think I'm going to put the options object in a separate JS object because there's so much going on. Calendar pie, options. So we have a few things to fix on the bindings here. The cell size is a reference that was outside of it. It's an array, okay? I think I put these in the other one where they weren't even being used. Here's where it needed to be. Almost there. All right, I need to have both of these sets of data. The Pi series is the one that I just got working in Calendar Pi. I think that has both functions. That's a spread operator here that is expanding this array. So then we have the scattered data. Scattered data is just running this function without the map after it. Looks like I need two versions of that. Yeah, so I'm not sure why, but it looks like they're referencing this twice, making these two separate things here, and I mapped it all at once. Where's the other side? Here it is. So just to make it easier to follow, I'm going to name this stuff the same as theirs. All right, so that's the scatter data, I think. Get virtual data, scatter data, yes. So this one is the scatter data, and separate from that, we want to map over it to Pi series. And so this one returns this scatter data. And then map. That's the map that is right here. So that chunk is what creates the Pi series data. So now I have both of those that I can reference independently in Calendar Pi. Okay, back to options. This would be I think I want the function version, yeah. Cell size is up there, right? Yes. Getting close. ECharts time format. What's time? Take false. Params. Where's params? cells. Oh, another one. This. So all of these references to the variables that are declared outside of the options object. In ECharts here, the reference is just the variable name directly. But since we are in a JS object here, then I have to add that dot this, or this dot whatever, to get to the cell size. You're just about there. That says it doesn't exist though. Users to chart. Scatter data pi series. Is that what this one should be? So at the bottom of the options object, there's data and then this expanded. Data is scatter data and then spread operator on the pi series. Data, scatter data, spread the pi series. Why won't it run? A run button is grayed out because something's invalid. I wonder if spread operator is not working on that. That is not it. Calendar pi series. Okay, so this series array has an object and then this calendar pi series. Go maybe another 20, 30 minutes here. Hopefully we can finish this one and maybe one more. Let's see, I know we're getting close here. We have the options object. Nothing here has bad reference. It's all local. I think it could be around here. Yeah, moment doesn't take these parameters. I had that issue with their date thing earlier. So what is this doing? Return. That's what I should do, is log what this data looks like. So here's a function that returns ECharts time format, whatever. I don't know what that looks like. So I'm going to call this, what is it doing? Time formatter? Const. So I'm going to log it first and then return it so I don't break it. That should still work, but now I'll be able to see what that part of the data looks like. Was I logging something else still? Try not to have a bunch of them in there so I know which one. 28. Yeah, so that logged it at a loop at the row level, I guess. So that's why we have a bunch of them. It's just a 2-digit. So this function just generates a 2-digit date up to 28. So there's other ways we can do that in Appsmith. This time formatter is taking this param value 0 and then using it to generate this date. That's the piece I need to replicate. I'm not quite sure how that gets used here. 28. Yeah, it's on February. Okay, makes sense. I think this is generating 1 through whatever for the length of the current month. I think that's the point of this section. Params. I'm going to try just replacing that with an array of numbers 1 through 28. So it would be formatter is a function. I see. This chart, sometimes you've got functions that just run to twist some data into the right format. This one seems like it's running on each data set here after, like you've got the data set, and then in the options, it's saying to run a function on each one. That's a little different than some of the other ones I've seen. So I'm not sure if that's going to work. I'm going to just try putting an array there and see what happens. Formatter. If I replace this with an array of numbers 1 through 28, let's see what happens. Does not want to run, so something's still not valid, but I think that was a case a little bit ago. We have the data here. What if I call the .data instead? It's still not in a format to run. So this, oh right, it's an object. Yeah, this won't run because it is an object. So the function, if there's a function in it, it would run on page load. Let's see. Unexpected token, that's odd. Oh, I'm not referencing the function yet. So let's see if we're anywhere close yet. Which one is that in? Cal options. I got something weird going on here. Okay, it starts on a Wednesday. Yeah, so it looks like it's got the same starting date and 28 days. That much is connected in looking at our data. But we don't have the pie charts getting rendered here. I think it's all down to this, replicating this little piece here. And I think I'd have to learn more about this ECharts time format thing. So I'm going to say that's far enough on this one. I'm going to try one more, see if we can find another example to wrap this up. All right. So I think on the last one here, let's do something different. It's a totally different chart type that we haven't looked at yet. Got some basic ones here, candle, radar. This one has an external data set, and it's running a function on it. Set option. Interesting. So this one declares the option first, and then it's setting something about the options. My chart set option. I don't think we need that part. That might be something about running it in here. So this has some external data that it uses, and inside the option here, we have another function for the legend. That's just getting the name from graph categories map, which is this reference data here. Let's check out what this data looks like. So right after the slash examples, if you put this data, slash data here, this is the JSON that this is taking in. So it's a node, it's an object, with a nodes array and a links array and categories. Okay, 3 different arrays, 77 nodes, and there's these links, source, and target. Okay. So for this one, since we know what the data looks like here, starting with, let's just see if we can get a static one working. I don't have a good data set to map over and try to create this from scratch, but we'll at least see if we can get this to render hard-coded. I know there's some functions in here in this option, so if I take it from here and copy paste, that's going to reference something that isn't available. It's not going to work. But I could just console log the options here and copy the finished version of it after that function has ran to see what the output is going to look like. My chart set option. Interesting. So logging it here is not in the right scope to see whatever gets changed there. Option, function graph. Here's the other end of this function. Ah. I missed that. This option object is being defined inside of this function right here, because there's the other end of it. Okay, log it here. Yeah, that did it. Okay. You just got to put that console log in the right spot. And sometimes at the bottom of it works when it's static. But if the options are modified by a function, then you have to be within that scope and log it at the right point for it to be able to access the updated version of it. So if I copy this object, let's do one more chart. And change it to EChart. Okay. Oh, we're close. Oh, hey, wait, it was just slow. It worked. Wow. So this one, even though it's really complex, there's a lot going on, it's still just as easy as a copy paste if you grab the options from the right point in the EChart example here. There's a couple different functions that are involved in this one and the external data set, and that can all be tricky to kind of peel apart and figure out where your data goes in. But if you just console log the options, copy it, and paste it, now you at least got something working that's hard-coded, and then you can figure out what part of this is your series data that you want to pull out. So that's a little tough to look at right there. I want to look closer at it. I'm not going to do another chart, but I do just want to check this out. So there's a legend series. And that's it. The series is an array of one object with another series data in it. Okay. So this type of chart could support multiple series. It has a single object in the series, and then in that there's a series of data. So if you were to try to replicate this, you would bind your data probably at this point, unless you wanted multiple data series. Then you'd have to map over and generate that 2D array from up here at this level. But this one is using a single, a single series of nodes. I'm not really sure what a second series would look like, because this already has a lot of connections here and different data points. So I think if you were to try to replace your data here, you could probably leave the top level object hard-coded, and you just got to replace this data set here. That's the thing you would map over. All right. Well, this has been fun. We went through quite a few different chart types. I had a good suggestion there on one of the types we're going to try. I got to get a good data set, but I want to do that pie one that we looked at. Let's see. that node chart is really slowing the rest of this down a little bit. But this one's interesting. I think it could be used for things besides the days of the week here. And it takes a specific set of data and then twisting it into the right format. But yeah, this is a good first attempt here at this new event we're going to try every Friday. I'm doing a Friday tech workshop so that we can review new features like this, libraries, new integrations, or just, take questions from the community. So appreciate everybody joining, and look forward to the next one. Let me know in the comments, or feel free to reach out on Discord if you guys got any ideas for the next event. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next week.